You can run, but you can't hide. The trailer for Fox's The Gifted is just out, and we're breaking it down here on Screen Junkies News. Mutants. They just can't catch a break. As soon as one learns they have incredible powers, some secret government organization starts chasing them down, trying to capture them, put them in a plastic prison, rinse, repeat. And sure enough, it looks like that's exactly what's happening in the new Fox series, The Gifted. From X-Men director Bryan Singer and Burn Notice's Matt Nix, the show just received a full series order from Fox, and last night they dropped the first trailer, which was chock full of goodies. But how does this show fit in with the X-Men film universe? Does it? Here to talk with me about the trailer are the new mutants to my Professor X, Jay Washington and Victor Torres. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hey.
So there's a lot in this.
A lot.
Let's start at the very beginning. The trailer opens with dialogue between Stephen Moyer's character and a woman who we now know, thanks to Bryan Singer's Instagram, is Polaris.
Yes.
Jay, just for the people out there who probably already know, but maybe you want a refresher, who is Polaris?
Polaris is a mutant, of course, with electromagnetic control, flight, magnetic field generation. Sounds similar to a mutant we know. Yeah, Magneto. She's the daughter of Magneto, which is funny behind that because with this being Fox's X-Men universe, it opens the door saying, could we reference her brother later on, Quicksilver? So that's who she is right now. We don't know. We'll find out later about more with her father and what he does and how that plays into the whole lineage of this TV show and the X-Men movies.
Sure.
So we'll go into that a little bit later, though.
Well, as we look at that, we see this opening scene. She's being held captive. Like you said, that's going to come into play later. But is there anything that we're referencing here specifically from the comics?
Well, pretty much just how her abilities look. They haven't changed the look of it because a lot of times they change how mutant powers look. The color scheme is pretty much the same thing. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's a very good nod to the comics. A lot of times you see colors change. You see a lack of color. To see the yellowish, the neon yellowish glow. Yeah. And that is a direct homage to Polaris in the comics.
Cool. Okay, the next thing we see is Stephen Moyer, who most people know is Vampire Bill on True Blood. Man, I loved that show, and I loved him on that show. So now he's back. He is playing Reid Strucker. And before we started the show, Victor, you were saying some interesting things about Reid. What can you tell us about this character?
Yeah, what's interesting is a different character, Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, who is a well-known Marvel villain. He's the guy in Age of Ultron who was like killed in the prison cell. He had like the monocle and they had peace written in blood.
Yeah.
And granted, that's the MCU, but in the Marvel universe, he has two children who are X-Men villains that go by Fenris. So would this be like picked up in this show with the two kids featured? I think it's a possibility.
Ooh. Is it possible that... So Stephen could be the son, and then there is a sister somewhere.
Stephen Moyer would be the father.
Oh.
He's the father.
And the two kids would be Andrea and Andreas.
Yep. Because his name is actually Andy, which could be Andreas, which could be Andrew. But her name in the show is Lauren. So that's where it twists things up a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not 100% sure on this. This is just a possibility.
It's just, yeah, it's kind of an interesting little tidbit because Strucker does stick out. And I don't think they just pulled a name out of the hat. They're like, all right, you know what, you're Reid Strucker now.
Yeah. Well, Strucker, Stryker, it feels like it's all kind of within that X-Men, Marvel.
Well, everybody knows
guy.
who Stryker is.
Yeah.
Stryker, the guy with Wolverine, the Weapon X program, that's a given. And he's in this universe.
Yeah.
So who knows, again... You'll see. I guarantee with Bryan Singer being a part of this, you'll see references to the movie, to the movies. Like we'll talk about during this video, you'll see references to the movies in it so much. So it's gonna happen. Well, so don't be surprised if you see a William Stryker somewhere, a phone call, an email, or something with a William Stryker.
Like
reference.
Maybe Strucker gets a phone call and he's like, no, you're looking for Stryker. This is
I'd love to see all of the different Strikers just appear like Brian Cox, the Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Just
That'd
all
be
of this randomly walking past. Going to 7-Eleven, like,
I'm so into that. Okay, speaking of film universes, this is not a specific reference, but this show gets very Carrie-esque.
Yes.
We see a dance sequence, like a prom sort of, that's the Carrie reference, where there's definitely something going on, and we meet Jace Turner, played by Kobe Bell, who was on Burn Notice.
I remember from the game. Remember from the game? Yes.
Yes!
That's for the game.
Yes!
Everybody go burn those. I'm going the game.
I like that better.
So
Sorry,
we get a little bit of insight to who he is. We know he's working for some organization, but later on we see that he's working for what's called Sentinel Services.
Yeah.
We see it on his flight jacket right there. So we know he's a part of this group tasked with finding mutants.
Right.
And so this is after the Carrie-esque scene that we see. That's either a homecoming, some big party at a high school where everything breaks down. So
then the mutant powers sort of come out.
They manifest.
Really because of bullying.
But yeah, you see him and you know, Sentinel Services seems to be more approachable where they'll talk down instead of like when in the movies we see if you find you hunting mutants, you hunting mutants.
Yeah, big time.
You know, so this seems a little bit different. So again, with the homage to the films, is it things that have changed after Days of Future Past, things like that? How does it all fit in? Again, discuss it later.
Okay, somebody who we've seen in the film briefly in Days of Future Past is Blink.
Yes.
And Blink is back in the show, now played by Jamie Chung. We also see John Proudstar, played by Blair Redford.
Yes.
Let's talk about sort of these two characters. Oh, and there's Eclipse, played by Sean Teal. Let's talk about their powers. Let's talk about how they will add to this story. What are you expecting to see from these characters?
So with John Proudstar, a lot of people were very excited when you heard that this character was coming. You thought it was going to be Sam Guthrie. They said it wasn't Sam Guthrie. It was John Proudstar. Superhuman strength. He's ripped a fighter jet apart with his bare hands.
Yeah.
He's super fast. He has dense muscle structure. He can be this guy. He's died, though, in the giant-sized X-Men 1. So he died, like, on their first mission. But they're putting him as a full-on character into this.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this goes. Again, they got the full series order. We don't know if this series order is 13, 23, or what, but he'll be a prominent character throughout this.
Okay, and what about with Blink? I mean, Blink feels like it's one of those blink and you miss it things. They keep throwing her in the movies and then she doesn't have any dialogue.
It's because of her powers. It's Nightcrawler-esque, but it's more pretty if you look at it. When she makes her portal openings, it's cute. And so they keep bringing her in. Again, they could bring Nightcrawler back, but why not bring in Blink? Because of the way she does it, she teleports people.
She was awesome in Days of Future Past.
Amazing.
That was one of the coolest parts of the
She
whole
didn't have
season.
enough screen time,
Yeah, she needed more screen time.
Definitely.
But that was a really cool moment in the film.
for sure.
Okay, and then with Eclipse, what can we expect from Eclipse?
Well, I thought you were taking that, Victor. My bad.
Oh.
Played by Sean Teal. Eclipse with this. Where did all my papers go? You know, he can absorb, manipulate, and project photons. So it's going to be a lot of visual graphics in this. A lot of visual effects. The CGI is going to be through the roof with this.
That worries me, quite honestly.
Why?
Because television budgets are not film budgets.
This is Fox, though. I believe Fox, and I agree with you 150%. However, this is Fox, and with them being so strong on, they're making their own universe now. They're taking all of their X-Men properties and doing what they can to almost rival Marvel's universe. I don't see it as that much of a drawback. As far as Fox will put the money into it, it'll look right.
Okay. So let's actually talk about continuity, like where this show lands. Since you're saying Fox is building a universe here, there's a line where Sean Teal says, the X-Men, the Brotherhood, we don't know if they exist anymore. There's also the moment where we see the Sentinel crawlers, which look very Matrix-y, sort of chasing after the mutants and Sentinel Services going after them. So is this show going to be the connective tissue between the movies and the future that we see in Days of Future Past, or is this a different timeline? What's happening?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show. I personally really hope not, just because it's so muddled by this point. We were trying to place where this would fall.
Yeah.
And at no point in time does it make, there's always just like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Days of Future Past wouldn't necessarily make any sense because if it's the 1970s, they already introduced the Sentinels in the 1970s storyline for that. Apocalypse then I guess would take place in the 80s. So is this taking place after Apocalypse? Then are we wiping out the early 2000s X-Men?
Right, that's the problem. Remember, and even though with the Sentinels they were introduced, the program does get scrapped at the end of Days of Future Past. So we'll be remiss if we don't say that. But at the end of Days of Future Past, it goes back to the 2000 movies.
Right.
Then we jump back in time to the 80s to do Apocalypse. This looks like a completely present day film.
100%.
And even Logan, where like like Logan's 2029, where the X-Men are not even a thing. Even then, they're referencing things that are happening in the early 2000 X-Men with like the Statue of Liberty. So I feel like my personal opinion is let it be its own thing. I think that's kind of a really cool thing that Fox has been doing with their X-Men universe, is that it doesn't all have to be connected. It doesn't all have to be leading into the next movie. It can be contained, and I think Logan, Deadpool were great examples of stories that it's fine. It doesn't need, we don't need like constant references to other movies. And so personally, just let it be its own thing. If we have a cameo here and there, like I'll accept it. I won't have to be like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. But I feel like once you get into that, especially with the Fox,
so should we call it a universe then? Because we know universes now from what Marvel has done, and I'm not discrediting it at all. Marvel has coined the term universe as everything being interconnected with these movies. Now you have an M. Night Shyamalan universe. You have the DCEU, which is a universe. And you now have Fox saying they're making a universe. Do we want to call it that, or do we want it to all stand alone? You know, because of the way.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and even in that, it feels like this show, and as we're going through the trailer, there are moments that feel like homages to moments we've already seen.
Absolutely.
So, like, there's a moment where you've got Polaris stopping police bullets, and it looks very much like the scene in X-Men 1 where you had Magneto stopping the police. Yeah, exactly. There's also, like we've been talking about this sort of Carrie moment and the bullying that leads up to it. You've got this young man covered in water, feeling his powers for the first time and bending metal, and which is very much like we see in young Magneto at the concentration camp, reaching for his family and bending metal, all covered in wet and stuff. So, I mean, the question is this just referencing things that we're already aware of? This is Bryan Singer, so is Bryan Singer just like, I did this before and it worked, I'm just gonna do it again? Like, what do we think? I like the idea that it is a standalone universe, because I don't think we need everything to be interconnected, and I feel like for a TV show that has to go for seasons and seasons and episodes, you need to open it up to any possibility.
Okay.
So, but with Bryan Singer, is he referencing his own work because he's like, remember that time? Or is it just like, that's what he's got?
I mean, I think it is a little bit of...
It's Singaberries. Remember that?
Remember the Statue of Liberty? I remember that.
I think that this is kind of, I would take it as probably just referencing just homages, because those are powerful moments in those movies.
Right.
And I think you kind of have that imagery that brings you back, like, oh, this is the X-Men universe, the X-Men world, the X-Men, whatever we're calling it, it's the X-Men.
It can be a universe and not all be interconnected. Like, we're not holding hands with Saturn and we still live in the same universe.
Yes, I guess that's true. I think of it more as, I don't think if he was just trying to go back to his old, like, bag of tricks, I don't know that they would put it in the trailer, like, to just be like, no, we'll do this. I did it in X-Men 1 before. Like, I took it as like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Bryan Singer, like, we're going back to the X-Men. I would hope it's something fresh and new.
Well, also,
though.
we know that Polaris is Bryan Singer's, is Magneto's, baby.
Yeah,
so
his daughter,
it would make sense that they would have a similar ability. There's also a moment at the very end, there's sort of like after the title, we get this really quick interaction between Stephen Moyer and Eclipse, where Stephen Moyer says, you get information on Lorna if you protect my family. So at the start of the show, it seems like we have one of the twins saying, daddy puts people like us in jail. And then toward the end, he's saying, I got to take care of my kids, so I'll tradesies. How are we going to... So is this opening the door to what the future of the show is going to be? Whoa. And I have a question for both of you gentlemen. Kids don't just get powers. They tend to inherit powers.
Well, they've established in the X-Men universes that in the movies that the fathers carry the genes, whether they have powers or not. The fathers carry the mutant X gene. We found that out with Bobby Drake, Iceman, and his parents. In the breakdown, the synopsis for the show, Reid is a prosecutor who works for the district attorney's office. He's tasked with finding mutants. This is until he finds out his kids are mutants.
Right.
So this is what I believe that conversation with Sam Teal, with Eclipse, comes in a little bit after that whole homecoming prom X scene where he's like, oh, wait a minute, I now have to protect my children. I can't do my job. So I think, and in the whole, he knows about Polaris because, of course, he kidnapped her. We see in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, captured. I won't say kidnapped. He has her captured in the beginning. So he knows about what he's going to do, what they do to mutants. So now he's having this change of heart. if you would.
Do you think he's aware that he has abilities?
I think he does.
Do you think the mom has abilities too?
Nah.
What do you think, Victor?
I don't think so.
She's too cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me you had powers? No, she does not.
I think there's a possibility that Stephen Moyer knows about his abilities, and it's sort of like The Believer, that Ryan Gosling movie where he's a Jew who becomes a neo-Nazi. I think it's like he knows his powers and he hates his powers and he's self-loathing.
I think he's a vampire.
I think he's a vampire too.
My children are vampires as well.
I think there's a possibility that he knows about his powers and he's trying to like keep them suppressed. And I think the wife has probably been hiding her own powers too. And now the kids have inherited the powers and it becomes about saving the children. But I think both parents will have powers.
I think that's interesting,
as well.
but I think the story's far more interesting if he doesn't have powers and we set him up to like hate mutants or like really try to track them down because it's unnatural.
To play with both of you guys' point, you could actually go into the comic book story of Graydon Creed and Graydon Creed Sr. Graydon Creed being Sabretooth in a lot of cases. His son doesn't have powers. However, he realizes who his daddy is and loses it. His mother is Mystique. So it's like you can go different ways with different things. Like, could he be somebody that has them? Could he be someone that doesn't? I would like to see it if he has them and the mother doesn't.
How pissed would you be if your dad was Sabretooth and your mom was Mystique and you were like, I'm just
normal?
What happened?
Wait, you mean to tell me my mom out here been changing the people?
I'd be so bummed. I would be so bummed.
Would you be that kid that goes slamming doors? You guys never let me do anything fun.
How disappointed would you if you were Sabretooth and Mystique and your kid didn't have any powers? Like,
I'm not mad.
Great.
I'm just disappointed.
Look at you. Look at you.
Guess you want to play baseball, huh?
You want to be regular.
What are your thoughts on this trailer? Does this get you excited for the show? Is there anything that you think that we missed, or there are other little like tidbits that you guys caught? Victor, I'm going to you first.
I don't know if there's anything tidbits that I caught. I'm just excited for. I love everything like X-Men. I love everything like Marvel just in general. So honestly, like I've said it before, like you could like put like a piece of crap in a bag and tell me it was like an X-Men movie, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna check this out.
Kevin Feige approved this bag of crap.
Yeah.
There's possibilities here. Yeah. What about you, Jay?
I'm excited for it. I was a little bit hesitant when I first heard about them doing it because I knew they were doing all these different shows based on different things. But now seeing the trailer, I'm like, I'm rocking with this.
All right.
I'm down for it.
Cool. Well, we asked on social which mutant you hope would show up in The Gifted. Victor, what are people saying online?
Sebastian J. Hughes wants to see Rogue. He thinks her abilities might work better for television. Steve Johnson wants to see Mimic, Havoc, Forget-Me-Not, Phantom X, and Prestige. And Rocky Drago 66 says James Madrox, a.k.a. the Multiple Man.
Ah, interesting.
Did we see him in X-Men 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
we
in
saw
X-Men
him briefly
3.
in X-Men 3,
Very
yeah.
briefly.
Well, I mean, as we've seen many times, you can be in an X-Men movie briefly, and then you can show up and actually live a long, happy life getting residuals on a TV show. Well, we want to know, what mutants do you hope show up in The Gifted? Are you excited for the show? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. Of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news. We'll see you soon.